Welcome back to another video here at DFD Mastery. If this is the first time you are here, welcome. My main focus as a real estate investing coach is to help you understand the importance of consistently finding discounted deals. It can be really discouraging trying to be successful in real estate investing and struggling to find discounted deals. You're really going to be discouraged and frustrated when you're spending more in marketing than you are making. So I teach a system called Driving for Dollars Mastery that teaches you how to consistently find properties at a massive discount. So on today's video, I want to talk to you about a question that I got from one of my students. So let me ask you the questions. What happens when you have a property under contract to purchase and the seller decides to not sell their property to you anymore, or they completely disappear and ghost you and won't answer your calls, won't show up to the title company, and even if you knock on their front door and they're not answering their door? What do you do in this situation? So I've had both of these scenarios where I've had a purchase agreement that they've legally agreed to sell the property to me and they don't want to sell me the house anymore. I've also had it to where they will not answer our calls. I went and knocked on the door to see if they would talk to me at least in person, and they ended up calling the cops, and the cops called me and said I was harassing the lady and trying to figure out what was going on. And so what do you do in these situations? So let me first start by saying it all starts with what is in your contract. So there's a lot of variables to these questions, but I want to walk you through the process to help you be prepared to know what to do in these situations. Because if you are in real estate long enough and you do enough deals, this is going to happen. This is a guaranteed thing that every real estate investor at some point will deal with. So first, you want to make sure you have a great real estate attorney that can educate you on the exact process and exactly what the rules and regulations are within your own market, within your own state. So first is getting a good purchase agreement. So once you have this purchase agreement, make sure you get it from your real estate attorney or you have it looked at by your real estate attorney. You need to ask your real estate attorney what is the exact process of forcing someone to follow through with an agreement on a contract. So I'm going to share some of the things that are required that my attorney has advised me on, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty similar with you, but make sure you check everything that I share with you with your real estate attorney. I am not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just sharing some of the things that have been shared with me by my attorney. So confirm everything and remember to do that. So my real estate attorney has made sure that I follow through with everything that is in the purchase agreement. So if I say it's $500 in earnest money that I pay to the title company by X date, I make sure that I do that, because if I don't follow through with anything that's within that contract, the contract will be void. So if I take it to the courts, the judge will see that I didn't take earnest money, didn't fulfill my part of the contract. So I'm not going to be able to force the seller to sell the property. So if you want to be able to make that contract valid, you need to fulfill your end of the agreement. The other thing is, if I have a closing date, I need to show up to the title company and actually sign and close and be there and fulfill my end of it. Even if I know they're not going to show up, I got to make sure that I have shown up and done everything that I had agreed to do on that contract. Once you have a purchase agreement, there is something that you can do that's called a notice of interest. Other states, it's known as a Memorandum of Agreement. Basically what it is a notice that gets put on title that if a seller tries to sell the property to anyone else while you're under contract, the title company won't be able to close until they've cleared that notice on the contract. So that is the first thing that we do when we get a contract, is we put that notice on the contract or on the title, as well as send over earnest money. So let's go through the two situations where the seller says they don't want to sell the house to us anymore. Sometimes, so I'm going to go into two different scenarios when they don't want to sell the house. I do let people out of contracts. Just because it's a personal thing. You don't have to let anyone out. I do know investors that say, you know, if you sign an agreement with me and it makes sense for me, I will follow through. I will file legal action against the sellers if they don't fulfill their end of the contract. And I have had to do that in certain situations. but I have let people out of contracts for personal reasons. I'll give you a couple examples. One gentleman was behind on his loan. He was going to lose it to an auction, and we signed the purchase agreement to buy it. He called us back a couple days later, and he said that he had told, he'd just gone through a bad divorce. He had told his children that he was going to sell the house, and his kids broke down and started crying because they were going to have to move and sell the house. And he asked if he could get out of the contract. He was going to do everything he could. He took a second job. He was going to borrow some money from a family, get caught up on his payments, and keep the house, just because he felt so bad about how his children reacted. Personally, I didn't feel good about forcing him to sell me the house at that point, and so I let him out of the contract. He might have been lying to me. I don't think he was, but for me, it was more important for me to be okay with it. Money's great, but it's not the most important thing to me. I've had other situations where I've had properties under contract, and there's been personal situations. A gal actually got diagnosed with cancer, and she's like, look, it's not a time for me to sell. And I let her out of the contract. There's been some situations like that where the family wants to keep the house, and it's kind of a sensitive situation. And I don't want to take advantage of these people whatsoever. And so I've walked away at that point. I have had other situations where they say they don't want to sell me the house because they've gotten a higher offer, or because a real estate, a broker or real estate agent has showed up and said, look, I can guarantee you so much more money, which they can't. They can't guarantee anything. But they no longer wanted to sell because they think they can get more money elsewhere. I don't let people out of the contract at that point, because I have made it extremely clear and transparent that I'm planning on making money, that they are selling it at a discount, and that is very clear before we ever even sign the paperwork. So if that's the case, I will not walk away from a contract. I understand the process. I explain the process if they choose not to show up to the title company. I've had to explain this a handful of times and basically explain, look, this is the process. I will have to file a civil lawsuit against you. You will not be able to sell the house while this lawsuit is taking place. It could take up to 12 months or longer. I've had one that took over 12 months. Or, you could just follow through and sell the property and get what we originally agreed to. Most of the times, people have followed through with that. I have had people ignore me at that point. I've had to send a letter to them with my attorney. So make sure your attorney's involved and they understand exactly what you're doing, because there's a lot of peace of mind understanding the process and being able to explain that to your sellers. When someone completely disappears on you, so my student that had the question, that's exactly what's happened, is they're just completely ignoring him. If I get ignored by a seller, I always follow through with legal action, just because if they're not even considerate enough to recognize that I'm trying to talk to them about something they've illegally agreed to, I'm not going to walk away from that. It's quite frustrating when they will not even communicate with me. So in that situation where the lady completely ghosted me and then called the cops on me for knocking on her door, I had my real estate attorney send her a letter explaining the process of litigation if she does not show up to the title company. She ended up having her real estate attorney reach out to her attorney reach out to my real estate attorney. They went back and forth, and she was actually advised by her attorney to follow through with the contract because of the potential consequences and the lack of her ability to win any type of case. And so she did close on the sale of the property. I bought the property. But this is something that you're going to have to deal with. There's a lot of real estate coaches that I've heard say, well, don't even worry about it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the hassle. But if you understand the processes, you have a great real estate attorney, it can be on the back burner. Keep in mind that there is a cost to this. If it does go to court, there are going to be some expenses involved. So you need to make sure that there's plenty of equity in the property and there's plenty of potential upside to make it worth your time. So if you're only going to make $2,000 or $3,000 on the deal, it's not worth the hassle of pushing it through to litigation. But if you're making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on the deal, then it's probably worth your time to push it through litigation. So hopefully this was a good help to you guys. If you have any more questions, if you have more things that you want me to talk about, go in the comments below, let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.